Have you ever spent hours memorizing Mandarin grammar rules only to forget them the next day? What if I told you that learning Mandarin doesn't have to be like that? You don't need endless flashcards, complicated textbooks, or hours of drilling vocabulary to start speaking real Chinese. In fact, the traditional approach of memorizing grammar and isolated words is one of the main reasons beginners give up. Today, I'm going to show you an easier, faster, and more practical way to learn Mandarin without ever focusing on grammar in the traditional sense. By the end of this video, you'll understand a method that allows you to start speaking immediately, sound natural, and remember words effortlessly. Most learners struggle because they try to memorize Mandarin like it's a math problem. They think, I need to remember this rule, then this vocabulary, then this tone, and their brain gets overloaded. Mandarin is a language of patterns, tones, and context, not formulas. When you focus only on memorization, you end up with lots of words in your head, but no ability to put them together in real conversations. You might recognize a word on a flashcard, but when you try to use it naturally, your mind goes blank. The good news is that there's a better way, a method that works with your brain, not against it. This method is simple, step-by-step, and beginner-friendly. The first step is to start with high-frequency words. These are the words you will hear and use in everyday conversation. So instead of memorizing hundreds of random words, you focus on the ones that matter most. The second step is to learn phrases instead of grammar rules. When you use phrases, grammar is absorbed naturally, without stress or confusion. You start seeing patterns automatically, and your sentences will sound correct even if you don't consciously know the grammar. The third step is tone practice in context. Tones are one of the most challenging parts of Mandarin, but by learning words and phrases in real sentences, you practice tones naturally instead of drilling them in isolation. You'll be surprised how quickly your ear and mouth adjust when you focus on context rather than memorization. And finally, the fourth step is speaking and listening practice. By shadowing natural sentences and repeating after a teacher, you build fluency and confidence. Each step builds on the previous one, so you're constantly practicing what matters most and seeing real results. What's great about this method is that it's fast and practical. You start speaking Mandarin from day one using phrases and words that actually matter. You no longer have to stress about complicated rules or forgettable vocabulary. Instead, you're building a strong foundation that allows you to communicate naturally. Beginners who try this approach often see progress within the first week because it aligns with how the brain actually learns languages. So if you're ready to stop memorizing and start speaking Mandarin naturally, follow along with me in this video. I'll guide you through high-frequency words, practical phrases, tone exercises, and real dialogues that you can repeat and practice daily. By the end, you'll have a method that makes learning Mandarin easier, faster, and much more enjoyable than traditional memorization ever could. Trust me, your brain and your motivation will thank you. Now that you understand the easy method, let's start with the first step, learning high-frequency words. These are the words you will hear and use the most in daily conversations, so mastering them first gives you a huge advantage. We're going to start small, with about 10 essential words, and I'll guide you through pronunciation and tone practice. Don't worry if this feels new at first. Just repeat after me and focus on getting the sounds right. The first word is ni, which means you. Say it slowly, ni. Great. Make sure your voice rises gently because this is the second tone. The next word is wo, meaning I or me. Pronounce it like wo. Keep it low and steady. This is a third tone. Then we have hao, meaning good. Hao. Notice the slight dip in your tone. It's also a third tone. By combining these, you can already say ni hao, which means hello. Try it with me. 你好. Excellent.
Next, let's add 谢谢, which means thank you. 谢谢. Pay attention to the falling tones. This is the fourth tone repeated twice. Then we have 什么, meaning what? 什么, rising first, then neutral. 这, meaning this, is next. 这, fourth tone. And na, meaning that, is also a fourth tone. Practice these together. 这, na. Good. You can now form very simple phrases like 这是, meaning this is, and 那是, meaning that is. These words alone already allow you to start pointing, identifying objects, and expressing simple ideas in Mandarin. Once you're comfortable with these words, it's time to move to phrases. The magic of learning phrases is that grammar is absorbed automatically. You don't need to memorize rules, the structure comes naturally. For example, the phrase 我很好 means I am good. Here, 我 is I. 很 is a soft connector that links the subject and adjective, and 好 is good. Repeat after me. 我很好. Excellent! You just learned a complete sentence without memorizing any grammar rules. Another useful phrase is 你好吗? meaning how are you? You already know 你 and 好, and ma is the question particle in a light neutral tone. 你好吗? Perfect. Let's try one more. 谢谢你, which means thank you. 谢谢你. Again, notice the tone contrast between the falling tones in 谢谢 and the neutral tone in 你. Using these phrases helps you combine vocabulary and tone practice naturally. You can repeat them multiple times until they feel comfortable. The key here is rhythm and flow, not perfection. Say each phrase slowly, then gradually at a natural pace. 我很好. 你好吗? 谢谢你. Excellent. Now let's focus on tone practice in context. Many beginners make mistakes by isolating tones or mixing them up. For example, pronouncing 好 too flat or 谢谢 too high can confuse listeners. To practice, take the phrases you've learned and repeat them in short sentences. For instance, 这是我的书, meaning this is my book. 这是我的书. Notice the tonal changes in each word. First say it slowly, paying attention to the pitch of each syllable, then say it naturally. 这是我的书. Perfect. Doing this daily strengthens your tone recognition and pronunciation. Now let's put everything into short speaking and listening practice. I'll say a sentence, and you repeat after me, trying to match the tone, rhythm, and speed. First, 你好, 我是老师, meaning, hello, I am a teacher. Repeat. 你好, 我是老师. Great. Another one. 这是正, meaning this is correct. 这是正. Excellent. Now a mini dialogue. 你好吗? 我很好, 谢谢. Say it with me. 你好吗? 我很好, 谢谢. Wonderful. And finally, 这是书，那是笔, meaning this is a book, that is a pen. Repeat after me. 这是书，那是笔. Fantastic! By combining high-frequency words, phrases, tone practice, and short dialogues, you're building a solid foundation for speaking Mandarin naturally. The more you practice, the easier it becomes, and you'll start forming sentences effortlessly. Remember, it's all about repetition, rhythm, and context, not memorizing grammar rules.
Even when you use the easy method, beginners often make a few common mistakes, and that's perfectly normal. One of the biggest is overthinking grammar. Many learners get stuck trying to remember the rules for every sentence, worrying if they are using the subject correctly or if the word order is perfect. But in Mandarin, if you focus on phrases and context instead of memorizing rules, your brain naturally picks up the patterns. Grammar becomes something you feel rather than something you have to study. You'll start forming sentences correctly without even realizing it. Another mistake beginners often make is forgetting tones. Mandarin tones can be tricky at first, and it's easy to pronounce a word incorrectly when your mind is on meaning instead of pitch. The key is to practice tones in context using phrases and sentences, not isolated words. When you repeat sentences naturally, your brain starts remembering which tones belong where, and your pronunciation improves automatically. Even if you make mistakes at first, consistent practice is more important than perfection. A third common mistake is memorizing words without context. People spend hours learning vocabulary lists, but when they try to use the words in conversation, they don't know how they fit together. That's why our method emphasizes high-frequency words in phrases. By learning words in context, you immediately know how to use them, and you remember them longer. This approach makes speaking easier, faster, and much more natural. Now that we've gone over these common mistakes, let's do a final practice challenge together. I want you to repeat after me and combine everything you've learned so far: words, phrases, and sentences. Don't rush. Focus on accuracy and tone. First, let's start with a simple greeting. 你好，我是老师, meaning, hello, I am a teacher. Repeat after me. 你好，我是老师. Perfect. Notice the tones and the rhythm of the sentence. Next, try a question and answer practice. 你好吗？我很好，谢谢. Say it slowly at first, paying attention to the rising and falling tones, then repeat it at a normal conversation speed. 你好吗？我很好，谢谢. Excellent. You can already see how phrases are forming sentences naturally without memorizing grammar rules. Let's do one more. 这是书，那是笔, meaning this is a book, that is a pen. Repeat after me. 这是书，那是笔. Great job! Doing these small exercises daily for just 10 to 15 minutes can drastically improve your confidence. You'll notice that you start remembering words, tones, and sentence structures much more easily, and gradually speaking becomes second nature. The final part of this video is a quick recap and a call to action. Remember, the easy method works because it focuses on high-frequency words, learning phrases instead of memorizing grammar, practicing tones in context, and speaking and listening regularly. By following these 4 steps every day, you will see progress quickly, and your Mandarin will sound much more natural. I encourage you to take just a few minutes every day to practice the words and phrases from this lesson. Repeat the exercises, shadow the sentences, and try creating your own short dialogues using the patterns we practiced. Small, consistent practice is the key to fluency. Celebrate the small wins along the way. Every correct tone, every sentence you can say confidently is a step closer to speaking Mandarin naturally. Finally, if you enjoyed this lesson, make sure to subscribe to Quick Learn Mandarin for more practical, beginner-friendly lessons. Leave a comment below letting me know which phrases or topics you want me to cover next. The more you interact, the more tailored the lessons can be to your needs. Great work today! Keep practicing, and remember, you don't need to memorize grammar to speak Mandarin effectively. You just need the right approach, consistent practice, and the courage to start speaking.